Hey,
Good
Lori,
morning.
looking good. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Look at this. We match.
We do, we
Match
match, and
again.
we
It's
just had a
beautiful.
little techno challenge there. So we're
Wow,
live and
we're
well right now.
we're a little bit late, and we were trying to load up some videos, which
Yeah.
we're going to get a chance to share with people because we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But I'm Doug Smith. Tuning in here, broadcasting from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, on the shores of the Ottawa River, and I would show you a 9-pound pickerel quickly, but I don't want to waste your time. Caught a 9-pounder just a couple of weeks ago in the
Oh,
Ottawa River, so there you go.
nice. Is that like a nice white fish? Like, is that like a white fish?
Oh yeah, the fish, I actually priced it based on prices at Freshco, and Sobeys. That fish was worth 130 bucks.
Wow.
If I would have brought it to the store and said, "Here, pay me what they're paying you for this," yeah, it was pretty sweet. It was
Oh,
nice. And
wow.
and how are you, Lori Davis?
Well, Laurie Davis is doing well, adjusting to some new technology with the platform, but doing great. And energy is up, and going to
Oh,
try and do a
fantastic.
full week of shows this week for the first time. So
Yeah.
I'm doing great. Thank you.
For our listeners, anybody who doesn't know, Lori had some major surgery, so she's
Mm,
back and at it and going hard, and everybody's just trying to keep up as usual. So thank you for doing this today. It's so kind. Usually I'm interviewing with you, the people that come on the show, and today we decided we were going to share a little bit. I asked Lori whether she would interview me as if she just met me,
Yeah.
and maybe pull some stuff out of me that can help you, can help the people that are trying to recover in your life, if it's you or somebody else, and or the people who are trying to perform better. Pull that stuff out. Let's get it in your hands, and then the floor is always open to ask questions, so please fire any questions you want about trauma and performance, and how that works from the inside out.
Hmm.
Happy to talk about that. So Lori, we just met. Let's pretend we just met, and I'm just coming on this show for the first time, and
Right.
yeah.
Well, welcome to the show, Doug, and thank you for taking
Thank you.
time out of your busy schedule to be here, even though we're normally here anyway. But what I like to do, Doug, when I interview people, the traditional way is people start at the beginning of something and then bring you up to speed to where you are now. And I'd like to do the reverse of that. I like to talk, when I do interviews, I talk to people about what they're doing right now. Where are we right
Mm,
now
hmm.
in our life's journey? And then we'll go back because what happened in the past has influenced where we are right now. So, just speaking to you from that perspective, what would be your top 3 priorities in your life right now as a retired former NHL hockey player, family man, friend, colleague, professional? What are your 3 top priorities right now?
Hmm. Well, right at my fingertips: awareness, consciousness, and healthcare. And
Hmm.
it might be it's awareness first. Could be healthcare second, then consciousness. But both consciousness and healthcare are sort of working together for us as a human species, right? Like
Hmm.
if we get one, we get the other.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, people, because of the way our brain works, if you ask them for their top something, they go like this: 1 is this, 2 is this, 3 is this.
Hmm.
I like to do it this way: 1, 2, 3,
Yes.
linear,
Yes. Okay.
because like you just said, one impacts the other, right?
Yes, it does. Yet, awareness, and I teach this, is the first step towards transformation or change. So
Hmm.
you can't have purpose or motivation or trust or any of that stuff without awareness,
Hmm.
because it will be misguided.
Right.
So that's just a little hint for everybody. If you're working
Right.
on your motivation or your purpose, stop it.
Yeah.
You'll become aware of your purpose and your motivation, but
Yeah.
work
A
on
little bit.
awareness. And then above that, above awareness, is where we're going with consciousness as a new piece of anatomy. So I can't
Right.
wait to share this and the work that's
Hmm.
happening here in Ottawa at the Royal
Good.
Ottawa and the University of Ottawa.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we had a discussion last night. We had our Monday night meeting and we had a discussion about what you know, what you don't know, you don't know, and that whole hierarchy of knowledge. So we kind of compared it to our friend Dr. Ramin, who you know is so brilliant.
Amazing.
He said, well, it's like an ocean. Well, you know, there's so much information out there. Like, let's just say healthcare. By the
Mm,
time I looked up everything on healthcare on Google, I could be so confused, so convoluted, so misguided and confused because knowledge now, since the information highway is like the ocean, it's like that big and bigger. But the knowledge is like only 1 inch of the top.
mhm,
So there's lots of information. That's the ocean. But the knowledge and the wisdom only represents 1 inch across the top of that ocean
mm,
because many people are not willing to do that deep dive and find out who they are authentically.
mhm. And there's another point there. The doubling of the world's information dictates our need to change, especially as leaders. So as the information speeds up and the doubling speeds up, it means our ability to transform needs to improve.
Right.
Because
Quickly.
if you don't see, it's not about doing the right thing in a knowledge worker society. Don't ever think it's about doing the right thing. It's about doing the right thing in the right order. Because if you don't do the right thing in the right order, you'll be so far behind, you'll think you're out in front,
Yes. There
right?
you go.
So structure, leadership, strategy, and then put people into it. People come last. See,
Mhm.
all these leaders, these leaders from the past, run around saying, "Oh, our people are first now. Our people are first." No, no, no,
No.
no. Your people come last. If you put your people first, then you'll put them into a toxic environment. Make sure the environment that you put them in, structure, leadership, strategy, is not toxic. Make sure it's nurturing because it's their consciousness you need to grab hold of. It's the space in between people that is the competitive advantage today. it's
Right.
not it's not the individual, it's how the individual works with other people. Because if you have two people working together effectively, you don't just double their performance. The physics shows us that triples performance. It gives you a 300 bump in performance,
Mhm.
and you can get that without adding a dime of cost. That's the cool
Mhm.
thing about it. It's all around us, except leadership isn't changing fast enough, so they're stagnating their organizations. Yet you have companies like Fullscript who go to $1 billion in 5 years
Mhm.
because the guy
All
who's
right.
leading, I mean, it's amazing.
So let's just dial this back down to Doug. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, because this is about you today.
yeah. And I'm part of
I
change,
know.
right?
I
And
know. So how
that's why I love change, is because
so
I had to go
here's the
through it.
question. Here's the question.
Yes.
How do we make that happen at home so we do not have a toxic environment at
Oh
home? So
yes.
what is the level of awareness and consciousness in healthcare, and how does that impact our family? Because if we dial things down to the family and we start, it's my opinion, if we started, you know, with families, then that's how you do that ripple effect. So you're in the business of helping others do that professionally and corporately. So how's it working for you at home?
Oh, amazing. I have all sorts of mechanisms to control my emotions now. Because when you lose emotional control, you hurt other people.
Right.
And when you hurt other people, you hurt yourself.
Hmm.
So I'm a hair trigger with respect to action,
Hmm.
right? Like somebody that I care about could get me going left, right, all over the place. And then I get frustrated and they get frustrated. And so I use my systems now to manage um, my stress, my calmness, whatever I want to access, I can access it. But I do my best not to access anger and negative emotions, right? So we all have access to them, but it's always our choice. So, but you do need triggers because your subconscious will reach for a negative emotion because it doesn't care, right? It just
Hmm.
wants to solve the problem. So it'll override everything. So again, you got to get that management program in place for your subconscious, or else it'll run awry from time to time. And it doesn't have to,
Hmm.
as much,
Hmm.
right? Because it's not about being perfect. It's about not making that mistake or not rushing too much when everything in your life is coming together beautifully. why chase it around and throw a hand grenade into it? Just just breathe and calm down and let the universe and the world come to you. Because I wasn't taught that. I was taught that, and I was a centerman when I played in the NHL, and I needed access to all four corners. I was buzzing around all over the place. I was just a puck. I just wanted the puck. I didn't know anything else. Right?
That's right.
And so for me to back off and change and transform and be able to look at it from this perspective means that anybody can do it.
Right.
And that philosophy, what I found, all it does is enhance your healing, because you stop hurting people inadvertently. You start helping people more, right? You start making sure that when you're meeting basic needs, you're not angry at the world. Why would you be angry at the world if you got a roof over your head and food on your table?
Right.
Like, doesn't make any sense.
I know.
Anyway, so I used to make it up,
Yeah. So here's a personal question. What's the secret to the longevity of your marriage? Because your marriage certainly was faced with a lot of trauma, especially when you got hurt. We'll talk about that after, but you've been married to Patty for 37 years. What do you think is the biggest contributing factor to that?
Truth.
Okay. Truth meaning how you feel about things, or sharing how you feel about things?
Makes me emotional just to say it. Truth is just truth. Honesty is just honesty. You tell a lie, you just wove yourself a backward step, right? That's impossible to recover from. It's not possible, right? So if you take enough of those steps backwards, it's going to be way too far and way too steep for you to crawl out. Right? So you could stop that now and start to reverse it and make up for those things. But we've always told each other the truth when the truth was extremely painful.
Right?
That's
great.
So, and it's worked for us. And, with my system and with the books I wrote and with getting it out of my head and out of my heart and onto the page and helping other people, I likely wouldn't be around. I would have been so stressed and full of anxiety, So, I've managed to tame that breeding.
Yes. Who have been your top 3 mentors to date, and why? Whether it's family, professional hockey people, business people. If you were to say, these are the 3 people that taught me the most about Doug, who would they be?
First, the first individual, and it's funny because he came from Venice Beach, and I was spending all my time in Venice Beach when I played for the Kings, but it was Anthony Robbins, because I had gotten his Personal Power series before I'd broken my neck, and I never opened it. And then it sat on the shelf for a year before I opened it after I broke my neck. And then I started listening to it, and it made sense. And I listened to the whole thing, and holy shit, could this all be true? And so I went, after Anthony, you got to search somebody else out after Anthony Robbins. And I did. I searched out John Canary, who was Bob Proctor's partner, right? And they worked together for years. And John Canary was like, this is how this. And the way he explained it, and you can look John Canary with a K up online and you'll see some of his stuff, but he brought some structure to Anthony Robbins that he didn't have. And then George Zalicki and Jim Rohn,
Yes.
I started getting into that. And then the network marketing industry was introduced to us, and we both embraced it because it seemed to be a logical way to learn how to sell things, and you can go to any of the meetings. And so we did, and we learned how to sell, Patty and I, right? Together. We learned how the whole process and motivating people and building teams. And so that was a huge step before moving into the corporate world. So it helped me a lot.
Awesome.
Introducing Veteran House Alliance International Monthly 50/50 Raffle. Purchase your ticket today, link on display, and have a chance to win cash and help a great platform supporting veterans.
Excellent. Let's go to the career. your career. And of course, I know the story because we're friends and I know the story, but for our viewers who are just meeting you for the very first time, just imagine if you Google Doug Smith or you look at his career. He played over 600 professional games, and at 29 took a big hit. So let's go back to before that, though. How did you playing hockey get started? How old were you? When did you first skate? When did you shoot that first puck? Let's have a little history there. The child in Doug Smith.
Yeah, well, my parents put a lacrosse stick in my hand first. And you know what? Most of the lacrosse players who were in the top 50 guys in the country when I played all went to the NHL. So
Wow.
I'm teaching my grandkids lacrosse first, because for spatial capacity, lacrosse is just wickedly good, right? With respect to tracking and what it does for your brain. And when you're playing hockey, that hockey stick is like a sword, and in lacrosse, it's the same thing, right? You usually have it in one hand, and so lacrosse, and then I got introduced to hockey and the community in Ottawa and the ODHA, the Ottawa District Hockey Association, and my mom became the executive director of the not executive director, the secretary of the Ottawa District Hockey Association. As I improved, she moved up the ladder in the league, so to protect me, because you had to protect, like, you know, the odds of making it is so slim. Like, you got to have people that are ruthlessly, viciously protecting you through that process. And you know, my mom was there and she was in the stands, and she was, you know, one day she did something so crazy. She jumped over the boards at a game and started strangling a guy that was strangling me.
Oh
And
my gosh.
the guy had his stick around my neck, and my mom jumped over the board and started hitting, like, ran out on the ice and started hitting him. And they suspended me.
Oh my God.
What did I do? I was like 12 years old, and I remember they suspended me because my mom came out on the ice. So you know, without that support system, and she made sure that as an underage, when they knew I was going to be drafted as an underage, she wanted me in Ottawa. She did not want me to be drafted and live somewhere else. So she got to know Brian Kilray, the Ottawa 67s. They arranged to draft me in the second round. And as a 16-year-old, I went to the Ottawa 67s, which was 20 minutes drive for me to go to the rink. And then my mom would follow the bus to most of the away games. She would drive to Windsor to watch one game and drive back. And that's a 14-hour round trip, right? For one hockey game. And you know, my dad and my grandmother lived with us. My mom would say, well, I'm going to Windsor tomorrow. And, you know, my dad would never go, but she would drag my grandmother along. So I'd go out on the ice in Windsor, where there's, like, you know, 180 people or whatever, you know, back then. And my mother and my grandmother are sitting there in the stands. Like, if you've ever played competitive sports or done anything in your life where there's an audience, the competitive advantage having that happen and being able to look up in the stands and see people cheering for you is extraordinary.
Oh, yes.
Extraordinary. And you don't need that big a competitive advantage to stand out. But they were there, and so I just stood out in junior, and all of a sudden, instead of being 19-year-old, you had to be 19 years old, they changed the draft year to 18-year-old for the first time ever, the year I turned 18.
Oh, wow.
So the timing of that it was brutal for 19-year-olds, right? Because all the 19-year-olds, the guys that were 1 year older than me, none of them got drafted in the first round. None of them. Like, they had more points than me, but I was 18, you know, and quick, and, you know,
Oh,
yeah, you want the new ones, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
It was crazy. And so if you look at the statistics from when they went to the 18-year-old draft and how that affected things, it's really quite interesting to look at. So the timing for me was perfect. So I get drafted by Los Angeles. So I go to the Los Angeles Kings at 18. and they wanted me to go to training camp without a contract, so I did. They didn't sign me to a contract, so my lawyer told me to leave training camp. Just leave, walk away. Don't tell anybody. Just leave your hotel, go to the airport, get on a plane, come home. So I did. All of a sudden, the shit hit the fan, the proverbial shit hit the fan, right? And I'll panic. I played as a captain of the Ottawa 67s in my third year, one game. I had a goal and 2 assists, 17 minutes in penalties. I got kicked out of the game, and I signed the contract that night with the LA Kings. And I ended up getting on a plane, going to LA, and all of a sudden I'm in Los Angeles. So 5 years in LA. And then I was traded to the Buffalo Sabres, played for Scotty Bowman, and we can get into any details you'd like. There's some nuances in there. Played for Scotty Bowman, then played for Pat Quinn in Vancouver, Glenn Sather in Edmonton, and I finished my career in the NHL with Mario Lemieux. So if how close to the very, very top can you get when you get drafted second overall? You played with Mario Lemieux. You hold certain records in the league, and still, I feel it's not enough, And I think most players, doesn't matter whether they play 1,000 games or 2,000 games, it's still not enough. If you talk to Wayne, it wouldn't be enough.
Right. Wayne just lives up the road from me here.
It's terrible, but it speaks to self-worth, right? Because no matter whether you got 100 games or 500 games or 800 games or 1,000 games, it's your self-worth that dictates your happiness. It's not that garbage.
Right.
There's always somebody. There's always somebody that's played more, right?
Yeah. Accomplishment doesn't cut it a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Right.
And so what happened after that is I signed a contract in the Austrian First Division League. I played 1 year in Austria. I had 200 minutes in penalties in 30 games. I hold the record in the Austria First Division for penalty minutes, but I also finished second in the league in scoring because they had a penalty over in Austria called hitting too hard. It was translated from German into English. It was hitting too hard. And I used to get those penalties all the time. So I either scored, got an assist, or went to the penalty box almost every single shift. Signed a new contract over in Austria. The fans seemed to love me. And then on February 7th, 1992, I went full speed head first into the end boards in a game, 25 miles an hour, and I shattered the 5th and 6th cervical vertebrae in my neck. I fell to the ice with my head on my hands. I had 3 surgeries. I was paralyzed from the chest down, no arms, no legs, no bladder, no bowels. And I had to start the rebuilding process. And we had to start the therapy process. And I encourage you, but don't underestimate the power of going to therapy. And if you even if you find out that the therapist isn't somebody you want to deal with, just the act of going and taking the action. It doesn't matter what the person has to say or whether you like them or not. It's not about that. It's about you taking those steps towards help. Because if you're not doing that, your isolation is becoming worse and worse and worse, right? It's one way or the other. There's no inertia. So, both Patty and I went, we got help. We psychiatrists, psychologists, and stayed clear of the medication. But then one day, 7 years into our the broken neck scenario, and I had learned how to walk again. We discovered that the reason Patty was helping me get better, and she was always with me and so devoted, part of that was because she thought that she was at fault.
Oh, wow.
After 7 years of rehab, she thought that because something had happened in the hospital where a doctor had made reference to something, she had carried that thing about her, that it was her fault, that she should have picked up on something, that this never should have happened to Doug. And so once we got that clear, everything got on the upswing again. But it was really causing a lot of confusion, because she was helping me, but I didn't want that much help, and it was really bizarre. So we got past it.
Tremendous amount of guilt.
Yes.
Well, that's us girls, we have 2 extra chromosomes. Guilt and unsale.
Oh, there you go. That's true. Now I see
we
it.
Come in with it. 2 extra chromosomes in our DNA. Guilt and unsale. You'll have to share that with Patty. That was perfectly normal.
So the story is in my book. I have 2 books. One is called Thriving in Transition, and you can get it for free at my website. If you just go to DougSmithPerformance.com/thrive, you can grab the book, because it's all pictures. Yep. And I tell in that book, and here's a little secret for those who want to write their story, is when you write your first book, write it in chronological order. Okay, just get it out of your system, because it's going to be the story that you're going to give people anyways down the road, and then you can create something really cool after you get it into chronological order. Again, order to me is so important, right? It allows you to see what you might be able to create afterwards. And so I wrote that first book, which you can have. It's full pictures, and it's got the system by which you can write a book yourself. And then I wrote the trauma code, and the trauma code is basically a systematic approach. It's the story, but it's boiled down into something that people can actually use. When you just tell your story, you can get people emotionally, but I wanted to be able to give people tools to be able to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. And when it comes to trauma, look, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. We all suffer from trauma.
Right.
But there's no inertia. So if you don't have something in place to get better from trauma, it ain't going to happen. It'll just keep spinning you around. It'll keep you in the washing machine. You're just going around and around.
That's right. Yeah. Because you're making all of your decisions out of the former traumas. And so, it's like a veil or a filter.
It is.
And I always say, if you're not making the right decisions for you, you're going to have another trauma right away.
We welcome you to advertise and promote your goods and services, and or brand your logo to 34 million subscribers on Canada Talks 167. Your investment will go towards our employment programs in the media industry for persons with disabilities and veterans.
Yeah, and some of them you won't even see, that they can be small, insignificant trauma that you're not even aware of, because you're not picking up on other people's senses, right? Wonder why they don't come around anymore. Wonder why they don't want to go for dinner with us anymore.
Right.
And it's because they like to be liked. They like to be cared for. Everybody likes to be cared for. So as soon as you find yourself not caring for people, it's like you're sort of out of step, right?
You are. Well, this happened to me. You just reminded me of a little story. When I lost my first husband, we had this couple that we hung around with. Like, I went to university with her, stood with her at her wedding. We were godparents to their children, involved in each other's lives. And when I became single, it was a weekly event, dinner at our house or dinner at their house. She phoned me up and she said, "I'm sorry, Laurie, but we won't be able to have you over for dinner anymore. And I thought, wow, that's real. Because see, this is trauma making a bad decision. This is an example of it. And I said, what are you talking about? Like, we've been friends for like 20 years. What are you doing? Helped you bury your mom, Well, she said, I didn't want to mention this ever before, but I will now. She said, Bob, that's her husband. He's always had the hots for you. And I certainly can't afford to have you sitting at the dinner table now that you're single.
Oh. Wow.
I was so hurt. And then I said to her, well, 2 things are going on here. One, if he ever made a move, you think I would comply with that? You obviously think I would do something like that. And two, I wouldn't have him on a silver platter anyway. So I'm not sure what rationale you're using to make that decision. But you see, that was when I didn't know anything that I know now.
Mm-hmm.
And that severed the relationship right there.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know where people are operating from. Obviously, she felt threatened in the relationship somehow. Maybe something had happened in the past, but that had nothing to do with me.
We
But
only
when you're
know.
not healthy, you think it's all about you.
Yes, yes, yes. There's one thing that everybody wants. They want to be cared for. They want to be loved, right? And some people say that that's an airy fairy approach, but when I go out into the business community and I meet a lot of the business leaders, it's phenomenal how things have shifted to that type of leader. The ones who are being successful, all they care about, all they think about, all they want to do is get their people whatever they need, whatever they want. It's this, they're servants, right? And then you see other organizations get their heels dug in, still hiring the type of people who destroy that type of morale, and you don't see the damage for quite some time, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
you're going to see some really cool work coming out, like some research coming out. I think during and after, like right after the pandemic stuff blows by. I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of really good people doing a lot of good work on this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Kathy made a comment here. I think we could have a conversation about this. She said, "Oh, that's awful," meaning about that situation I just described. But secondly, she was being honest. Um, well, when you said earlier, Doug, about truth, how does truth and honesty fit in the same box? What may be my truth may not be your truth, or accused of being dishonest when in fact we're telling the truth. There's a lot of gray area around honesty
Yes.
because not truth, honesty. Oh, I was just being honest.
Hmm.
Okay, well, that's your truth if that's what you think it is, because that situation had nothing to do with me, and I'm sure you've been in many situations where it didn't have anything to do with you, but we became the victim.
Yes.
Can you
Yes.
speak about that? Especially in the game.
In the game, you never knew who was hunting you down.
Oh,
Right? When I played in the NHL from '81 to '90. Um, there was always people in the room, around the room, monitoring the situation, judging you. Who are you talking to? What were you saying? Were you staying positive? So a lot of the coaches, would have a plant in the room, and you'd have to be cautious about what you were saying, or else you'd get caught by not behaving the way the coach thought that you should behave. So being monitored like that was a continuous thing. I don't think it happens so much anymore, but I'm sure it does, right? I mean, the line between management and player, it's pretty thin,
right.
especially in professional sports. The player, coach, general manager, a lot of times it's pretty thin, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of, so I had to worry about that going on, and that caused a lot of angst, because that's not a form of honesty, in my opinion.
No.
Right? It's the opposite. So if you watch my YouTube channel, Doug Smith YouTube NHL, you'll see I fought a lot, but I fought from time to time, but the fights that you see me fight in were always because somebody tried to hurt me.
Yes.
I never would have ever considered fighting anybody in the NHL unless somebody first tried to hurt me.
Ah.
So that's how my mind works. I'm blown away that they would do that,
Hmm.
but I
Yeah.
would drop the gloves because it was seen as the thing to do. But in the business world, boy, when you see that, all you have to do is believe it and make distance between you and it, right? Instead of attacking it. Where when I left the NHL, moving into the business world, that's what I would do. I would attack it because I didn't know that it was something to be left alone
Right.
and to separate from. So that caused me some confusion and some angst.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. So let me ask you this. If you were addressing a group of young people today who are, gifted athletically and otherwise, and you were to give them one piece of advice that they could carry with them the rest of their life and go, oh, I've got to remember what Doug said. What would you say to them? I'll give you a minute here to think about that because that's a big question. What would you say to counsel them, mentor them, something you'd always want them to remember, whether they're in the game or not, just something for their character?
Yeah. And I share this with people a lot. This isn't a physical exercise that we're going through here, right? This is a mental exercise because the body follows the brain heals the body, right? And so if you spend 10% of your time on the physical and 90% of your time on the psychological consciousness part, you're going to get so far ahead. You'll just get so far ahead, you won't even know where you are, and you'll be able to put it on cruise control every now and then, knowing that you've built something evergreen, maybe on the internet, right? It's okay to do that. It's okay. Be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start just going and saying, I'm just gonna get myself physically better, and the physical part of my life isn't happening the way it should be, and I hate if you think like that, you're putting things in the wrong order. And so order is important. Knowledge worker society, order. You need order, better order. Don't do things in the wrong order, or you're going to end up paying the price for longer. Right?
I love that.
So that's what I would recommend to people.
I love that. Yeah. Well, they did some research about, probably 20 years ago now. I don't know what it would be now because enlightenment has become more popular, the self-help industry. But 20 years ago, they did a study and they revealed that in North America, the average person would spend $5,000 a year on the outside. So getting fit, going to the gym, fancy glasses, my clothing, all the outside pieces, $5,000 a year, average.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't have a problem with that. I probably spend that myself lots of times, but only $150 a year on the inside.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
that
we
kind
don't
of
see
goes
it.
along with what you were saying about, getting physical, putting all your practice in, and not investing here. So,
And we can hide the fact that we're not investing here. We can't hide the fact that we're not investing in our physical.
Right.
That's why it happens, because everything's locked up in here, and you could play whatever game you want.
Yeah, you can hide behind your smile. You can hide behind your money. You can hide behind a lot of things.
Yeah, and I have these 3D glasses right here where I work on my brain on a product called Neuro Tracker, because I want to build my spatial capacity, because it helps me keep calm. It makes me sharper, and a lot of people won't do this because nobody's watching them, right? Some people only do things because people are watching them. Whoa, that's 10 points right there. I love it.
The Disability Channel would like to thank our existing sponsors. We really appreciate the support and kindness from the BIAs across the GTA, Ontario, Canada, and our friends in the USA. We love making new friends. Thank you for supporting our existing employment programs.
Oh my, not to downplay your neurotracker at all, but yeah, I
Yeah,
understand.
I just like people to be moving forward with their brains, with their minds,
Mhm.
with whatever you want to call it. You know, you call it a brain. People say you should be a doctor to talk about it. No, you call it a mind. You call it your central nervous system. You know, whatever it is, don't just rely on your physical body to get the job done, because it just, you won't be able to keep up. That's the scary thing about it. Or you'll end up keeping up, but you'll be so frustrated and angry at the world it won't even be worth living.
That's right. So in my recent surgical situation,
Hmm.
I had 10 days in the hospital to lay there and use this because I couldn't move. I couldn't go anywhere without help. I was all hooked up to tubes and so on. So it was this that I was able to use to not be traumatized, to not go into some emotional deep dive and never come out.
Hmm.
So much so that I was able to just, confront the surgeon and say, I'm sorry. Your opinion of what needs to happen is not matching what I know needs to happen.
Hmm.
And I need this thing fixed. And you're the mechanic. Oh, and he didn't get this. This was really funny because my husband's an aircraft maintenance engineer, retired, a mechanic. He can fix anything. If I have a broken earring, he can fix it. And so I said to him, you're kind of like a mechanic. And he said, a mechanic, like very condescending, right? A mechanic. I said, oh, yes, I'm married to an aircraft maintenance engineer. He's the most brilliant man I've ever met. And a doctor is no different, you know?
No.
Both of your hands should be insured for the same amount of money,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
That's true.
And he
That's
kind of
so
looked
true.
at me and he said, you really believe that? And I said, so you're the mechanic. This is the piece of equipment here.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling him how to do his job. I said,
Yeah.
here's the equipment. It's broken. You
Yeah.
know how to fix it.
It's
So let's get it
physical.
fixed.
It's physical.
Right?
Yeah, it's obvious. It's anatomical. It's physical. Yeah.
You've done probably 100 of these in your lifetime,
It works the
like
same for all of us. Yeah.
right. And he was a bit blown away by that. He couldn't believe that somebody would be speaking to him in that manner because you see, we're so programmed. Oh, whatever the doctor says is right. Um, God's. But anyway, that's
Support.
another
You
that's
know,
another show. That's another show. But
the support in the hospital is so critical that that
oh,
you have support in place, another set of eyeballs, and
yeah.
that you're willing to um, defend your position and have a reasonable conversation. When I was in the hospital, I'll tell
Yeah,
you a little story.
sure.
I was in the hospital, and with a spinal cord injury, it's almost like they decide they're going to experiment with medication to see
Oh,
what will
yes.
the pain. And so one night the nurse came in and gave me this medication, and that night I lied awake like this, and everything noise in the hallway made me jump out of my skin like for 7 hours. Okay, it was the worst trip. And she came the next night. She came in and she said, "Here, you got to take this medication." I said, "No, I'm not taking it tonight." She said, "Well, the doctor said you had to take it." I said, "Well, I'll make you a deal. You take it tonight, and you tell me how you feel tomorrow, and then if you don't mind it, then I'll take it tomorrow night." Oh well, the doctor's going to be mad. Well, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm the patient, right? So
Mhm.
I hear you. That resonates with me for sure.
Yeah.
But it was a positive experience. The people that helped me
Oh,
get
definitely.
better,
Mhm.
the people who helped me, the people that my mom found after I had the injury, and be aware, as soon as somebody in your world has a catastrophic physical, catastrophic emotional trauma, get help as soon as you can. But the help that you're gonna be looking for is outside the system generally, right? Because if you really want to get better, you can't mask the problem with what the system will encourage you to mask it with, because the system wants to put a veil over your problem, settle it down a little bit. They're not that motivated to make it go away,
No.
right? So they'll keep you in sort of this in between space. So when you're injured, when somebody in your family's injured, get them going, get them the information, get them the facts, get them the truth, get them the right books so that they can go inside and help themselves get better and start making better decisions. Because
Exactly.
you and I both know, like when we speak to audiences full of people, that's the thing that the audiences that I speak to have the most trouble with, is making a decision.
Right.
They can't make a decision. They need somebody to share with them that the decision they're about to make is a safe one. Because they don't want to make a bad decision. They don't want to look bad in front of, things haven't been going that well. We can't take any chances.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because you're not using any type of structure to figure out what is the next decision. What do we have to do next? What's going to push us forward?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're seeing in organizations, is that sort of stalled. They're sort of stalled right now. And the ones who are making decisions are excelling. So
Yes.
yes.
Yes. Absolutely. And it has to come from us. It can't be what other people want you to do.
No, and that's where your work, Laurie. Like I'm participating in one of your workshops right now, and just the once a week showing up, being with these other people, talking about the things that we're working towards. It's present the rest of the week. It's with me the whole week. So this isn't like something that you have to spend 25, 35, 45 hours a week on.
No, it's an hour a week.
It's showing up.
Right.
It's just the 80% of the deal. It's showing up somewhere. If people say, well, where should I show up? I don't care. Just somewhere
just
where
show
there's
up.
other people.
That's right. That's right. Well, you're in my men's group, and there's 3 guys in there, you and the other 2, and all different backgrounds, all different situations, but there's always that common thread. And it always comes down to the fact that no matter what you did for a living, what you've been through, what kind of trauma you've experienced, at the end of the day, I have to look at me in the mirror
Mm-hmm.
and love who I see.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I feel so hot right now, Doug. I'd take myself out on a date.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
because I'm results oriented. I like to make decisions, and I like to make fast decisions, and I like to make any kind of a decision I need to make. And if it's not going to work out, well, I'll find out soon enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'll find out. We just recently had a setback we wanted to do this big event on the 2nd and 3rd of November. I was over last week to check out the facility, count the tables and chairs and everything. And within a matter of 3 hours, that whole thing went south.
Oh, I'm
Because the
sorry to hear that.
community decided they didn't want to have it there.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. All that work, all that time.
That's okay. I said, okay, no problem. Let's just rebook it, April 6th and 7th. Give us 3 months to find a new venue, upscale our event. Because once you have a setback like that, all it is to me is opportunity knocking. What's the gift? And I'm not going anywhere. I'm not welcome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So next.
Yes.
So you go over it, under it, through it. And here we have this beautiful event coming up April 6th and 7th.
Oh,
and, we might have to get you to come west.
Oh, I'd love to. My daughter's out in Fernie, BC. So just
traveling will be good. You'd be a wonderful feature, so it'll only be better than it was initially intended.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it if something goes south.
There's this thing for the listeners called duality. And the latest research shows us that there's a story that's happening to you, and there's a story that you're telling yourself that's happening to you. That story you're telling yourself about, that's called duality. That is a dangerous entity that meditation, mindfulness-based stress reduction, breathing techniques, yoga, it makes that go away. It doesn't completely remove it, but it lowers the duality and that chatter in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can do that today, if you could just get involved in programs that lower that duality, you're going to start making better decisions, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be calmer. You're going to be able to think things through more. And so I really encourage you to work on that, because this is a physiological thing that happens to you. So, you can go to the listeners, just put up my new meditation on awareness. It's the first thing that people need to learn. And you can get it at DougSmithPerformance.com/relax.
I think I have that here, Doug. Let me just check.
And
Yeah.
I should change the name, but it is relax, even if it upsets any of the women. I'm not trying to tell you to relax, okay? Because I know how women don't like it. My wife doesn't like it when I say relax.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, here we go. Here you are. Look at this.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Like if you step into that, I challenge you. You could send me a note. I should have a prize for anybody who could stay awake when you listen to it at bedtime, because I haven't had anybody say they've been able to get through the whole thing.
Stay awake. Okay, I'll give it a whirl.
Yeah, just follow the suggestions. Okay, if you follow the suggestions, very difficult for you to stay awake.
Cool. Well, Doug, guess what? Our time is up. A full hour almost. And thank you so much for agreeing to being interviewed yourself. And I believe it's important for our show that our viewers know as much as they possibly can about us.
Yes.
And where we're coming from, and build those relationships. So thank you very much. And
well, I'm super pumped. If anybody, this is what I do today. I step out onto the stage. I transform my audiences quickly, from about 20% awareness all the way up to 100%. So I take it from 20% awareness to 100% awareness in about 45 minutes in a keynote presentation. And
cool.
what I do, the key mechanism in it is when you go, when I got traded from LA to Buffalo, I was a healthy scratch in LA. When I arrived in Buffalo, and a healthy scratch means they weren't playing me anymore. They didn't think I was fit to play mentally. And I arrived in Buffalo, and I scored 13 seconds into my first game when I arrived there, because they built my belief. They told me they liked me and they wanted me. And so I went from a healthy scratch in LA, got traded to Buffalo, and it had nothing to do with my physical ability. It had only to do with my mental ability. So stick with the mental ability, work on it, and we'll have some more guests on the show. You know who I met this past week? I met my old buddy, my old goaltender, Darren Pang from the Chicago Blackhawks. He was a goalie for the Chicago Blackhawks. And some of the listeners, if they're hockey fans, would remember Darren Pang. But he's a good man, and we're going to have him on. And we've got a few other former NHL players coming on in the next few weeks. So
cool. All right. Well, thank you, Doug. And thank you, everyone, for watching. You've been watching the Press Box here on the Disability Channel, and looking forward to more shows coming down the line. So bye for now, everybody.
Have a great week.
If you never sipped a Coke from a cold glass bottle, drank water from a garden hose, if you're an addict for AM static, craving that country gold, if you never, ever wrote a love letter or used a phone with a dial, let me say a little personal touch never goes out of style. I might not play as fast as you, but I'm still having a ball. You just need some time to catch up to me, that's all. Let me bring you up to speed on cool. I can tell you're new to old school. stuff that works. And I still bring my old King James with me to church. My favorite kind of pie is moon. My favorite sound is twang. Even though we're worlds apart, it's okay, we can hang. I might not play as fast as you, but I'm still having a ball. You just need some time to catch up to me, that's all. Let me bring you up to speed on cool. I can tell you're new to old school. Boys turn into their daddies, girls turn into their mothers. Won't be long till you'll be saying age is just a number. I might not play as fast as you, but I'm still having a ball. You just need some time to catch up to me, that's all.